this evening. We have a lovely event lined up for you tonight. Tonight's speaker is the area coordinator up at BWK. She has said that she is the shortest of all the hall directors. And in addition, she has said that she considers most conversations some kind of form of stand-up comedy. And she recently ran her first half marathon. And last, give it up for Mary Kate Gallagher.
Hello, everybody. Hi. So my name is Mary Kate, and the last time I was speaking in front of a group of students, I swore, and Dr. Spina was in the room, and damn it, if that happens again, I'm dead. My brother said to say that, and he said he would laugh, and he did, so that's good. Solid start. So my name's Mary Kate. I'm the area coordinator at BWK Urban Commons. Thanks, Greg. And I have the awesome opportunity to work with a bunch of students on their best days and their worst days, and sometimes in between. But I also have taken my life as a woman of God to shape the ministry that I do with my students. I wiggle a lot, so I'm just going to keep walking, or else I'm going to just start swaying, which will make everybody seasick. But I have a strong devotion to Mary. My name is Mary Kate. My parents, I guess, knew I was going to have a strong devotion to Mary. And so I do. And every day I pray the Magnificat. Sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's in the afternoon, sometimes it's at night, sometimes it's all three of those. Most of the time it's when I'm stressed, because it's a nice long prayer and it gets you all centered back into life. But what I am going to do today, my speech is actually set up and outlined based off of the Magnificat. And the Magnificat, if you don't know, is one of the few times, I'm not a theologian, so I'm going to just stare over here at Elizabeth so that she can nod affirmingly when I say correct things and shake her head when I say incorrect things. But the Magnificat, for those of you who don't know, is one of the few times in the Bible in which two women are talking to each other. And, thank you, that's pretty important because they both were in this really awkward space in their life where Elizabeth was about to have St. John, and Mary was about to have Jesus, obviously. And they both were in this, like, you shouldn't really be having a baby kind of phase in their lives. So Elizabeth was slightly too old, Mary was slightly too unmarried. Patrick said that would be funny too. Shout out to baby Pat, he's got this today. So whenever I find myself in trouble, it always is helpful to remember that Mary found herself in this way. Just like when I get angry, it's also helpful for me to remember that Jesus sometimes flips tables. So the Magnificat, though, is broken into three different parts, in my mind. This is the end of my lecture here. The first part is just saying, thank you, God, for making me who I am today. The middle part is what I like to call the call to social justice. I had a better phrase for it, but I forgot it. And then the last part is don't forget where you came from, because that's who you are. And that is what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up, because like every good test, I feel like they put the hardest questions at the back. So, I have notes here. I'm just going to reference them really quickly. I am from Cleveland, Ohio. As you saw, that beautiful poster, it has me in the skyline of Cleveland, which is my dream, to be as tall as a building. Girl can dream. And I came from Cleveland. I came from a mother who is a special education teacher and a father who is an engineer. So as you can guess, my life is full of processes, and making sure your processes are done redundantly, without mistakes. And if there are mistakes, don't worry, it's redundant, so you caught them. And lots of preparation, right? So by the time I went to kindergarten, I was a lot like Franklin. I could count by twos, I could tie my shoes, I could button buttons and zip zippers. But what I could not do was read or write. which is kind of funny because I have a master's in communication now and I did a lot of writing. But it did present some challenges for me when I was in school. I had a very difficult time learning how to read. I had a very difficult time learning how to write, and nothing could really prepare me for how difficult that was going to be at age 6. Because everything's difficult at age 6. It is. It's really weird to have this microphone situation. Okay. I'm also easily distracted. Should have added that up front. But my mother, being a special ed teacher, she was able to work with me to get the support I needed. I was in a one-on-one classroom for a large portion of my educational career. I received accommodations all the way up through grad school, and I was pretty successful. I am where I am today because I have a mother and father who really pushed me and really instilled in me that preparation is what helps you be successful. And if you're not prepared, you're not going to be successful. And if you're not successful, it's because you're not prepared, which may not be true. Yeah, so that really worked for me, this idea of if you're not prepared, you're not going to be successful, all the way up till 5th grade. And that's a long time. 6 to 10, that's a solid 4 years. You guys are great. Can you just follow me around and laugh at all of my jokes? Because no one ever does. Except for Greg. Greg's great. Anyway, so preparation gets you pretty far, but it doesn't get you far enough. And when I was in 5th grade, I took a science test. I could not tell you what it was on. I couldn't tell you then either because I got a 57 on it. And my science teacher, Mr. Weimers, which, side story about Mr. Weimers, he always thought I was going to host a talk show. So I should send him this video. Yeah, see? Mr. Weimers sent an email to my mother, and in a very 2001 moment, she printed out the email and put it in her bedroom. And being an anxious 10-year-old, I was in her bedroom, hanging out, watching TV probably, because I wasn't allowed to, and I found this email. And I read it, and it said, she got a 57, and that's not passing, and you worked with her, I worked with her, and I don't know what she's doing. So in my very binary mind as a 10-year-old, either I didn't prepare enough, or I was dumb. And I knew how much I prepared. Mr. Weimers talked about how much I prepared. My mother talked about how much I prepared. And so it was through that I came to start to have this realization that preparation may not be what helps you be successal. I wasn't quite there yet though, because I was 10. I was mostly just upset that I didn't do well on this exam, and I wasn't going to be able to go trick-or-treating. I know, right? Now, I had not told my parents until about 2 hours ago that I was snooping in their bedroom to find this email. And so I was like, ooh, if I tell this story here, I should probably tell them. So I called them and I was like, hey, I have to do this presentation and I'm gonna tell this story and you're probably gonna be mad, but way back in 2001, you printed out an email from Mr. Weimers, and they were like, who? Needless to say, my dad was like, don't do that again, and I was like, promise. But I thought that was funny. But it goes back to the idea that preparation is not where you need to be. It's also right around that age of 10 when I started to come to the realization that not everybody goes to high school. I don't know where this realization came from. Maybe I was reading like one too many like Civil War books. But I had a grade school teacher who told me that if my grades continued the way they were, that I was not going to get into high school. What a Catholic school thing to say. Anyone else? No? Yeah, it is. Thank you, whoever just affirmed me. And so I did get into high school, surprisingly. I graduated, yeah. And, but it was that idea, that phrase or that idea got into my mind that if I just would prepare harder, I could get into high school. Well, I got into high school either way, whether I prepared hard enough or not. But it was in high school when I took the ACT. Yeah, right? So I was pretty successful, actually, before we get to the ACT. I went to Magnificat High School. Anyone? Nobody. Anyone from Cleveland? Okay, there we go. All right. I went to Magnificat High School, which is in Cleveland, and we were required to do so many hours of service, and being the overachiever that I am, and as someone who does much better at working than I do at schoolwork, I volunteered at the Cleveland Clinic, which was a really great opportunity for me because I had the opportunity to really see these older students who go off to college who did way less work than I did, who, did not, maybe had similar grades to me, but, were able to go on and do these really great things. And so that was really great for me. And I really found a home there. And that's where it comes into this idea of servant leadership, or this idea of social justice learning that I really gained from Mags, from Magnificat. Mags, as we like to call it. But that has really shaped who I was today. I knew how it felt to be that 10-year-old girl reading that email from her teacher in her parents' bedroom, and then hide it from her parents until she was 29. I knew what that was like. I had those experiences all the way through high school. In high school, my guidance counselor, I think, was trying to be helpful and maybe have me utilize some accommodations I wasn't utilizing, and informed me that I had the lowest ACT score of all of the women in my class. But I did get, I went up like 15 points the second time. Yeah, it's crazy. Accommodations are, anyone an education major? Hey, yeah, accommodations are important. So make sure that if you have students that you make sure they use them. But it was through those feelings of the teachers emailing my parents, or Mr. Pullman, my guidance counselor, telling me that I was not doing what I needed to be doing, that I really buckled down and realized I don't want anyone else to feel that way. And in my mind, the only way to do that is through healthcare. Oh, that was weird. I'm so sorry, everybody. Is through healthcare. And I decided I was going to go to college and study community health. And my lovely guidance counselor, Mr. Pullman, he really was a good guy, I think, informed me that I would do really great at a small school like the University of Dayton. But I decided, no, I want to go to Ohio University. And Ohio University is not a large school, but it's not a small school either. But it had a pretty decent community health program, and I was super into it. And it was a really good time. But it was through my work at Ohio University that I was really able to connect with a couple different faculty folks. One of which is not here, but he's here in my heart, David Discutner, or DD as he refers to himself in emails, and why I refer to myself as MKG in emails. Yeah, thanks. Dr. Discutner helped me realize that maybe what I wanted to do was not actually community health. I think I did want to actually do community health. I'm very passionate about most health topics, every health topic. But David Discutner really helped me, Dr. Discutner, really helped me to understand that what I really wanted to do was make sure that folks felt wanted and felt needed. And that brought me back to my original call to the Magnificat. And so as I think about the work that I do now, it is less about students who need help or support, but it's more about students not feeling alone. Because feeling alone is awful. Feeling alone is awful when you're 6 and you can't read. Feeling alone is awful when you're 10 and you're sitting in your parents' bedroom thinking that you're not as smart as everybody else. Feeling alone is awful when you're you're 16 or 17 or however old you are when you take the ACT, and you know you aren't fulfilling what you need to do. Feeling alone is awful when you're pregnant and you don't know that you're not married or you're too old, right? Feeling awful is not a feeling that stopped or started after Jesus, right? Feeling awful is something that we see all the way through. And the Magnificat always brings me back to that idea. And so my goal in the work that I do is to be like Mary to Elizabeth and Elizabeth to Mary, to all of the students here at UD. You all have different things in your life that you're working through. Some of them are really great, and I'm really excited for most everything you all do. Sometimes we make choices that lead us into spaces that we feel are types of failure. And sometimes things happen to us that we didn't do or didn't ask for or didn't deserve. But that doesn't mean we at UD, we would call a community, but we don't need somebody here to help us navigate that space for us. And I think that when I originally wanted to have this conversation with you all, I wanted to talk about how service learning and social justice really shapes the work that I do. But I really think that as I focus through and I muddle through today, and I muddled through this past weekend and a couple events that took place over the summer, as I really muddle through what that looks like, what I really want to think about is, how does failure shape where we are? And is failure really actually a failure? Is the 57% on a 5th grade science test really gonna change your life? Apparently it changed mine, but is changing your major your junior year in college to a very similar major, just a different focus? But is changing your major your junior year in college or your senior year in college, is that really failure? Is terminating a friendship with someone that you've had for a long time, just to kind of come back to that friendship after some time, is that really failure? And how can we work as a community to be Mary and Elizabeth to each other? I think is really what the salient points of my conversation today is. And I'm sorry if this was really blue. My brother told me it was quite blue. But he said that if I made some funny jokes, I might make up for it. I don't have any really great answers for you. I wish I did, but I'm only 29, so who knows. But I really think that just as the Magnificat calls us to be like Mary to others, we can work to support all of those around us. And I mean, look how happy they are, right? And so we can be there together. And so I have printed out for everybody a copy of the Magnificat. You can tell I did it because it's crooked, and you guessed it, Xeroxed backwards. Yeah. But I was hoping that maybe we could close today by praying the Magnificat together. I hope that this was helpful for you and maybe a good use of your time. But maybe we can pray the Magnificat together. There's a couple on each table. I only printed out 30 because I wanted to save a tree. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this down. Okay. Maybe in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. My soul is the greatness of the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God, my Savior. For you have looked with favor on your lowly servant. From this day all generations will call me blessed. The Almighty has done great things for me, and holy is your name. You have mercy on those who fear you in every generation. You have shown the strength of your arm. You have scattered the proud in their conceit. You have cast down the mighty from their thrones, and have lifted up the lowly. You have filled the hungry with good things, and the rich you have sent away empty. You have come to the help of your servant Israel, for you have remembered your promise of mercy, the promise you made to our ancestors, to Abraham and Sarah and their children forever. Thank you, everybody.
I'm gonna turn it back on. Oh, you're not done. Okay, wow. Okay, let's give it up for one more time for MKG. I think I do that. Yeah, at one point I do it. Okay, so now we're gonna enter into a time of question and answer. So does anybody have any questions for Mary Kate?
I hear Karen Spino's coming next. I highly suggest going to hers.
Do you still think you put a lot of effort for like trying to prepare for everything?
Yeah, and I think like that's where like unmet expectations come. I think that's where unmet expectations come, right? Okay, I have to use the microphone. It's for the videographer. Hey, what's your name?
Nick.
Nick, thank you for being here today.
Of course.
Hey, Nick. So yeah, I do spend a lot of time putting a lot of pressure on myself, unneeded pressure. A really great example of this is, do you all know what a progressive dinner is? Okay. A progressive dinner is where you start at one person's house and have appetizers, and then you mosey to the next person's house. And then you have a main course, Mia's laughing, and then you mosey to the last person's house and have dessert. And it's lots of fun. You get to go through 3 different houses, no one has to do everything, it's great. And it's supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be social, it's a good time. But I had a progressive dinner a couple of weeks ago, and I had a plated meal for 20 at one large table that was slightly what some may call a little bit extra, or a lot of it extra. And so I think like that's just a really great example of you can't prepare for everything. People did not show up. 20 people RSVP'd. I think we had like 15 people come. So there were some empty seats. Yeah, it's really not that bad, but there were some empty seats, and my living room was very crowded because a table for 20 is huge. But it still was a good time, but I still had this, you didn't meet that expectation of having all of these 20 people show up. Another really great example of this is during move-in, when I very much over-prepared and don't sleep for a couple of days, and really getting ready for our students' arrival. And there's always something that happens. For example, my first year, I prepared so much, I was ready, I knew it. I had done move-in for years prior to my experience here at UD, and you guessed it, there was some organic growth in the rooms. There was an unwanted guest of, I wouldn't call it mold, but maybe some dust that was clinging to the wall. Yeah, do you see where I'm going? Yeah, it's clinging to the wall with one last little, forget you, Mary Kate. And I had no idea what I was doing because I had just moved in, but I thought I knew what I was doing. And you can't prepare for that. You can't prepare for what that looks like. And you can prepare for how you respond, but you just don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yes, I do. I think the answer itself shows you how much we're prepared. I have a lot of stories I didn't use, so if you, Rick knows, Leah knows. Any questions?
What's an example of like how you act as Mary or Elizabeth to other people?
What a lovely question. I wish I had prepared for it. That was funny, yeah? No, it's good. No, that's a logical question.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. So a couple weeks ago, I have a friend who I have a standing lunch date with every Monday. Every Monday I have a standing lunch date with her. And one Monday, they got a new menu at this. We go to the same restaurant every time. We sit at the same table. We're like old ladies who go to lunch. And we sat at a different table this time, which should have been our first sign that this was a bad idea. And they handed us a new menu. Second sign, this was a bad idea. But we got really excited because they had this delicious looking sandwich that had, it was a turkey sandwich with a cranberry chutney kind of thing on it. And so this friend and I, we order 2 different sandwiches, kind of like we always do, and then we switch them so that we each get half of both sandwich. So we order it, we switch. My friend, who I've known for some time, does indeed have a nut allergy, and there were indeed pecans, thank you, in said wrap. And then all of a sudden she goes, "There are nuts in here," and we scour the menu. We're like, "There are no nuts in here," and she's like, "Yes, there are. I know." And so I had the opportunity, the really great opportunity, to take some of that well-prepared emergency response that I have to make sure that Leah was able to she's here, this is Leah, she's still alive, was able to get the help that she needed in order to be successful. But it wasn't just going to the hospital or, yelling at the waitress and the waiter and the cook and the hospital. But it was the follow-up, I think, that I really felt like married to you. I don't know if you felt like that, but thanks. So I think that's the most recent time that I see that for myself. Thanks for letting me tell that story, Leah. Thanks. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I have to look at it because I don't think I've ever used consistent language. But there's the "thank you, God" portion of the Magnificat, that my soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God, my Savior. It's my favorite part. And then there is like the social justice warrior phase of like, "You have cast down the mighty from their thrones and have lifted up the lowly. You have filled the hungry with good things to eat, and the rich you've sent away empty." I apparently have an interpretive dance for the Magnificat. I didn't know that till this moment. Thanks for exploring that with me. And then there's the "don't forget where you come from," right? You have come to the help of Israel, for you've remembered the promise of mercy that you made to Abraham and Sarah. I always add the Sarah part because it's important to me. That Abraham and Sarah and their children forever. And we are their children forever, right? So this is not just a promise that God made to Israel and Sarah, or to Abraham and Sarah, but it's a promise that God's making to us, that we're going to be able to continue through the work that we do. That's the amen part. Yeah, me. I painted that. No? If you've ever seen my handwriting, you know I did not paint that. This is by Jan Oliver. It's called The Visitation, and you can find it in the rector's office. Isn't it beautiful? You should take some time to stare at it like I have. It's really inspiring. I just love it. Okay, I'm gonna stop looking at it. Thank you all for your time today. I appreciate all of you.
Thanks so much to Mary Kate for coming out tonight. That was fantastic. That was lovely. So this is our last Agape Latte of the semester. Before we conclude, just got a couple of small announcements to make. And And in particular, could we have Audrey Bennett come up front? This is the part where we gotta get, hi Audrey. This is the part where we gotta get really sad. Audrey has put in so much work and has been like an incredible help to all of us. But she is graduating at the end of this semester. And so we just wanted to all say, thank you so much, Audrey. We got you a little gift.
Coffee. Yes, I love coffee. Oh, guys, thank you. Thank you.
Really good to hand her off. She was just like such an incredible light, like such a source of God's light in our life and in our team. And it's been a pleasure working with her.
Yeah, I've had tons of fun. So, I don't know what else to say. I've had fun. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and now next up, we're just gonna have a couple quick words from Sister Nicole.
Come on up.
Thank you. I didn't want the microphone, but thank you. So hi, I'm Sister Nicole Trahan. I'm a Marianist sister. I work here part-time on campus in the vocations office. And I just wanted to let you all know, in case you didn't know, that this week is National Vocations Awareness Week. So this is a week where we pray for and give thanks for people who are in religious life or consecrated or another form of consecrated life or who are in the priesthood. And we also offer our support and our prayers and our encouragement for people who are considering entering religious life or another form of consecrated life or the priesthood. And so I just wanted to make you all aware of that so that you can offer your support and your encouragement and your prayers for people that you know or people that you don't know who are considering the possibility, and to ask you to pray for those of us who are in religious life or priesthood or what have you. So that's all I have to say. There are many opportunities on campus if you are someone who is interested in exploring this question, or if you know someone else who is interested in exploring this question. There are a lot of opportunities on campus, and I would be very happy to talk with you about it after this. So, thank you.
Thank you, sister. Yeah, so that is our last Agape Latte of this semester. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight and all throughout the year to these events. It's always a joy to see your faces here.
And we'll be back in February.
We will indeed be back in February.